to the big game, China. They are not our friends. We can fool ourselves that they are a partner. But the truth is that successive governments and businesses and education institutions have sold out this country for their bag of silver. Now, for some of it, it's a big bag. For some, it's a small bag. For some, it's being treated oh so nicely when you go to another part of the world, making it seem like somehow that you are the one person who's been able to bridge the divide between East and West. You are the one person, be it the Vice-Chancellor of a university or former Premier of a state or billionaire mining tycoon, that you somehow have cracked the nut. But the truth is that China is not a normal country. China is not like even places like Russia. It is a place in and of itself in terms of its size and its brutality. The way that it is put together and the way that it punishes the smallest amount of dissent. Now, we have to talk about this every single night because there might be a day where we won't get the chance to do so. Now, I'm not talking about Chinese invasions. I'm not talking about anything like that, but I am talking about the economic coercion of companies and governments that, of course, just end up silently doing the bidding of their Chinese masters because of the monies that have been raised thus far when it comes to a relationship with China. Could you believe, and a perfect example of that is the social media company Twitter. Now, remember, the social media company in Twitter, which you cannot open in China, well, believe it or not, they mark the President of the United States tweets as misinformation. They mark Chinese propaganda as sensitive images. That's what I'm talking about our ability to speak openly, to speak freely. But I expect that to be here for a long time because we've got steel in our spine, not just as citizens, but certainly of those that are in government right now. And this is going to be one of the crowning achievements of the Morrison government, one of the crowning achievements of every single MP in the parliament who voted for this today. This is the power of the federal government alone to decide who gets to do deals with countries like China. No longer will a premier desperately trying to dig their way out of a hole be able to find a Belt and Road to be able to make their problems go away. No longer will there be a look the other way arrangement between an Australian university and the Communist Republic of China, because our federal government will now have the power of the pen to say no, no, no. This, in part, is what was said in Canberra today.
The passage of the Foreign Relations Bill, what's your message to Victoria about its Belt and Road agreement with China?
Well, we never agreed with it in the first place, and we still don't agree with it, and no doubt decisions on that will be made in due course.
So it will be the federal government that will make its decision about the Belt and Road. They will make that in, as they say, the coming weeks and months, but I can tell you, it's going to go. Also, even in places like the Turnbull Times, they are recognising that Australia's allies need to step up, as they have, but need to continue to stand up to make sure we are not an example nation. And what do I mean by that? I mean when China would crush us simply because they could, to show off that they can. Because remember, our ultimate crime is trying to get a better insight into how a pandemic got out of control that destroyed the Western world, so many jobs, trillions of dollars in debt, much of which goes back to China, and 1.5 million people dying. And as my colleague Andrew Bolt has pointed out, more details today. If you want to know about the difference between the freedom that is Australia and the repressive regime that is China, just have a look at the arrivals and departures. There are currently 0 Australians that have fled Australia to go to China. There are the best part of 3,000 that have fled China to come to Australia. A very big and sizable population are those that are from the island of Hong Kong. We learned today via the Department of Foreign Affairs that 2,584 Hong Kong passport holders have had their visas extended because they are in this country already. 373 have been able to get here and have been given temporary graduate visas, and 101 temporary skilled visas have been granted. So why is, at its fundamental kernel, there a problem with the way that China goes about its business? Because it goes about its business in really one of two ways. They will either get you to cuddle up to them, and if you're a friend, everything's nice and peaceful, and you can trade, and we'll be a customer, and you'll be a customer, and everything will be amazing. or you could be foe. And foe is, no, China, I don't think you can just build islands in the South China Sea, declare them to be your own territory, and then tell us not to be able to keep using the shipping lanes. No, China, you can't tell the rest of the world what to call Taiwan on a map. No, you, China, cannot get away with a virus that spread in Wuhan that was apparently so bad that you stopped your domestic flights. But international flights, they kept going out around the world. A couple of questions. Why did that happen? Well, there was an extraordinary bit of vision that Tucker Carlson had on Fox News today. It was of a Chinese academic, an economics professor. And remember, there is no free thinking in China. Everyone on one portion of another is openly talking on the behalf of the state. I want you to pay attention to longer excerpts than perhaps ones you've already heard about these Chinese officials. This Chinese official was speaking to a room, presumably of students, who were being taught about how China rigs the game, about how China gets their influence into the billionaires on Wall Street, and the billionaires on Wall Street end up telling, via donations, their political puppets in Washington what to do. All of that fell down, of course, upon the election of Donald J. Trump. Here's the first cut of this bloke. Have a look. And by the way, drop the supers at the bottom here. We need to read the bottom of the screen.
跟我们打贸易战。那么我们为什么搞不定特朗普政府？啊，为什么以前1992年到2016年之间，中美之间各种问题都能搞得定？是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人。 啊，就是我们在美国的权势核心圈啊，我们有我们的老朋友。
We, the Chinese Communist Party, have got influence at the highest levels of Western society, the highest levels of Western economic power, and the political people of whom they fund. This was frightening. And of course, one of the biggest questions that has always been there to answer, yet the press refused to ask, is about the deals that have been done between the Biden family and China. Are they the types of people who this bloke is proudly talking about to a room full of people who are laughing at how gullible the West actually is?
现在呢？现在我们看到拜登上台了，传统的精英。 政治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华尔街的关系是非常密切的。所以大家看到吧，拜登的儿子被特朗普说你在全球有什么基金公司，发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？这里边都有买卖啊。那么
This is how confident China is that they are going to get the world to dance to their drumbeat. That somebody would be willing to say that in front of not only a packed room, but a room that was filmed. Now, according to Tucker Carlson via Fox News today, that footage was uploaded to social media in China but then killed off because presumably they didn't want people like me to show people like you. The relationship between the incoming President of the United States and his son matters. It is not a conspiracy theory. Remember, all of the investigations about Russian collusion that in part were built entirely off emails that were traded in and around Donald Trump Jr. There was 3 years of an investigation into Russian collusion, yet you will hear nothing, see nothing, read nothing about Joe Biden's son. No one has denied that not one but 2 of his laptops are currently under the possession of the FBI. No one has ever denied that the contents of those laptops show a very tight relationship between, at the very least, Hunter Biden and the Chinese Communist Party. The allegations from his business partner are that parts of that money went either to the former Vice President or maybe even the Vice President when he was Vice President. But either way, all the conversations about, is Donald Trump going easy on Russia because he owes them money? Well, guess who has had a financial relationship directly with China? It's the incoming president's son. So perhaps one of the last gifts that Donald Trump may be able to hand to his successor is to be able to get the FBI to launch a formal special counsel inquiry into Hunter Biden and his business relationships. What was sold and for how much? And what did the then former Vice President and incoming President know? This matters. Because as you have seen them say on tape tonight, we have people in the higher echelons of the United States, ha 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 ha, they do our bidding. Imagine if one of them had a tangential connection or a direct connection to the President of the United States. That's frightening.